Hear that? Nothing? Me neither. But that's the perfect spot for your company's name to step into the spotlight. Become an underwriter for As You Mic It and let every episode be your curtain call. Slip a note to podcast@pashakespeare.org for more information.
Names are so important. You know Lady Beth's name, right?
What is it?
It's Chuck. Be innocent of the knowledge.
Dearest Chuck.
Yes.
Welcome back to As You Mic It, the official podcast of Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival. I'm Jason King-Jones, Artistic Director here at PSF, and I'm delighted to welcome you to Season 2 of our podcast and to our 35th season of Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival.
Woo!
Hold your applause. As always, I'm joined by our Director of Education and Community Engagement, Kim Carson.
Hello.
And our Associate Producer, Connie Behringer.
Hello.
As I said, we're coming up on our 35th season. That's 35 summers of artistry and connection. It also happens to be our 30th anniversary of being recognized as the official Shakespeare Festival of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So, as we look ahead to this year's theme of legends and legacy, this is the perfect moment to reflect on how far we've come and where we are headed. Now, without giving too much away, Legends and Legacies is programmed to celebrate great stories that have captivated generations, but with a more modern lens. It's a season that honors where theater began while inviting audiences to enjoy something new. And though our summer stage seems to be ages away right now, we've been far from still. Out on the road, we have one of our most beloved programs, the Linny Fowler WillPower Tour, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary with Macbeth. Now, Kim, for those who aren't familiar with WillPower, let's just jump in. Can you tell us a little bit about what the WillPower program is?
I sure can. WillPower is a big educational keystone of the Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival. It is an educational tour that brings a professional theater production of a Shakespeare play directly to high schoolers throughout the region. Each fall, we send a company of actors to perform, and the actors also hold workshops for thousands of students, many of whom are experiencing live theater for the first time and Shakespeare for the first time.
Yeah.
And some of the folks in our company are the same folks that you've seen perform on our main stage. Now they're loading sets and costumes into school gyms and auditoriums and turning these into real theater spaces for this really amazing experience, Shakespeareans, if you will, for all these high schoolers all around the area and beyond.
So, Kim and Connie, what is it about Shakespeare? Like, why are we doing Shakespeare in the classrooms? If we could be touring, we could be touring all kinds of work, all kinds of theater. WillPower, the Linny Fowler WillPower Tour, isn't the only educational Shakespeare tour out there. It happens to be ours for us locally, and we do a lot. I think Casey last counted that we've been in over 40, maybe 47 of Pennsylvania's counties.
That's right.
So in our 25-year legacy, the Linny Fowler WillPower Tour has reached almost 250,000 students. So there's been a big reach with where we've been able to go, and not just in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but also in New Jersey and down into Delaware and even into Washington, D.C. just a couple of years ago. So why Shakespeare? What is it about Shakespeare that we've decided kind of academically and institutionally that it's important to create these opportunities for students?
So the first sort of practical reason is that Shakespeare is still in our curriculum. Every year the students study the same Shakespeare plays, and sometimes the curriculum shifts and they study different plays, but Shakespeare is always in the curriculum. And I think one of the main reasons that we use Shakespeare in the curriculum, to not talking about the dramatic elements at this point, but just simply, like English language arts, right? Yeah. It's where we can learn figurative language. It's where we learn a lot of vocabulary. It's where we learn about iambic pentameter and meter and rhythm in language. It asks students to use and light up different parts of their brain when we're using Shakespearean language and studying it that way. It's also a great way into history, this part of the world and that time in history and what was going on. Shakespeare's a wonderful introduction to that as well. And so it's this really, Shakespeare allows us to swerve across curriculums, not only language arts, not only English, but also into history, into the dramatic arts. And then there's social emotional learning, studying these things. You know, there's psychology that we can use Shakespeare to use. So schools are really starting to use Shakespeare really cross curriculum. Even, you know, like even science classes and things like that. I've heard of science teachers who've studied Macbeth in particular and talked about potions and things like that, and using chemistry to, you know, like it's really a wonderful way to teach so many different things.
I have Newt, tongue of frog, that kind of stuff.
Yes. But also like, what is the point? What's the, you know, I'm trying to think of a name a Shakespeare play where someone gets poisoned, right? Hamlet. We did it this summer.
Yeah,
right? Like what could that have been? You know? And then you think about it from a scientific or a biological aspect, and then you go like, okay, what are the ways the actors can play that on stage? It's a really wonderful way to join a lot of different ways of thinking from one piece of art or one piece of literature.
One of my favorite things about what we do is thinking about bringing Shakespeare into the school system. Yeah. Macbeth really speaks to me because that was the first Shakespeare that I've ever read. But I've never seen it performed before.
Okay.
And when I was in school, you know, we read it out loud to each other. We did not perform this. It wasn't a part of our curriculum at all. We didn't have these opportunities. So when I think about what we're presenting, it becomes more alive. This is how Shakespeare should be experienced. It should be experienced as live theater. You know, I love that we can read, and I love that we have that kind of opportunity to have this sort of interdisciplinary learning right now. But seeing it performed as theater, as something to entertain, as something to delight, that's a really cool opportunity. I love that we can present that to the students in the Lehigh Valley area. It's just a remarkable gift that we have.
And it's really impactful for them too.
Tell me more about that.
We do these surveys afterwards, of course, and some of the surveys go to the teachers and some of the surveys go to the students. And I have to say that what the students have to say about the pieces are really inspiring. These kids are having, I had one student last year who was like, this was my favorite school memory ever. This is my favorite thing that happened at school. And we had kids being like, I read this in class. This was a different thing than reading it in class. I understood every word. Or, you know, they're connecting with the characters in different ways. They're having a deeper understanding of the stories. They're enjoying themselves. You know, it's my mission in life to say learning should be fun, right? Right. Learning should be fun. And we do that. We bring a day of learning that doesn't feel like school. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And in the workshops too, the kids get so much out of it. I have to say on our opening, you know, I peeked in at all the workshops at different points, but during this text workshop that I thought, are these kids really going to get into this? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. And a group of 30 kids sitting in a circle, all, you know, beating on their chest to the iambic pentameter, and like all speaking Lady M's monologue together, and like and discussing. It was thrilling to me. It was really cool how much these kids actually are getting out of the experience.
I think that's fantastic. When I think about many people who approach us in the lobby, or we have conversations with, or have been part of the book club, or talkbacks on Thursday nights after our shows in the summertime, they talk about, you know, like when they first experienced Shakespeare, they read it in class. And for many of them, then the follow-up part of that was, and it was boring. Or and I didn't understand it. Or they say the positive thing, and they're like, but now I really get it because I've seen it live in front of me in context. And it's the part that I know that educators are trying to do. Many educators are trying to create opportunities for the students to get engaged, because perhaps they also love Shakespeare and they want their students to also get excited and inspired by it.
Right.
And then the tool that they use is, let's all read it aloud in class and let's assign roles. And I remember that was my experience in high school. And I can't necessarily say that it was a very successful experience for me, as I was listening to my colleagues struggle to try to make sense of the text. And then I just wanted to, hit my head on the desk because I wasn't figuring it out either. So with that in mind, then what are some approaches that WillPower provides that's not, let's sit down in a classroom and read this thing aloud?
So the entire thing, right, is designed to give young people a fresh take on the classics.
Okay.
Right? Like that's sort of the main through line. And so even down to the costumes and the design, we're not watching people in pumpkin pants and doublets. We're watching people who are sort of dressed like us and they sort of talk like us and we get it,
Macbeth
right? We
has
can
a
connect
mohawk,
to them.
right?
Yeah. And then in the workshops too, these kids are up on their feet.
Yeah.
We're encouraging them to share ideas and to use their bodies and to say, well, what do you think that means? In a way that I think in the classroom, we sort of give them so much information and we say, memorize this and this is what it is. And then you'll do well on the test versus what we bring into the classroom and these auditoriums and gyms and things like that is going, well, what do you think? Right? And here, let's stand up and let's move to the rhythm, or let's use an animal to help us discover, or let's use, let's put it in our bodies in a different way that it doesn't feel like you're learning, but you're learning all the more because of that.
Let's use an animal to help us discover. What do you mean? Like we have pets that we bring into class?
So no, that's a good question,
you?
Jason.
We bring them into the office all the time.
Of course, everyone knows what I mean.
Yeah.
Of course, everyone has done this. No. So there's one of the workshops is a little bit more physical. There's one that's called Carriage in Class.
Okay.
And there's sort of three things that they use to introduce that. So there's the witch, which is like kind of hunched over and low to the ground. And then there's the soldier, which is very upright and like stiff and marching. And then there's the king, who's sort of like above all the others. And so it's a way to teach status within a dramatic piece and to connect that to our bodies. How do we move as the king? How do we move as the witch? How do we move as the soldier? And then those exercises sort of branch off into other experimentations of, well, how do you move if you're a cat? How do you move if you're so I'm pretty sure I saw a lizard, and I think I saw, I saw all sorts of things, again, peeking into the workshops, and the students really get into it. They let go in a different way. They open themselves up to experimenting, to trying, to looking a little bit silly.
And are these teenagers that we're talking about?
These are teenagers. These are high schoolers and middle school students. That's what these workshops are designed for. So it's really cool to see these young people really going for it in these workshops. And then, of course, the teaching artists bring that lesson and that physicality back to how that relates to the text and how that relates to the piece, and how an actor might use an exercise like that to help them find things about the character and how the character moves and how that might be different from how the actor moves through the world. So we try and connect everything back to the text, but there are these sort of acting exercises that we use that are really that really strongly relate to the curriculum.
Yeah. Can I bring that back to an experience that we had over the summertime that I would love for you to see if you can reflect on a little bit also, Kim. And that was our summer educator intensive. And for the first time this summer, we brought in teachers to help provide them some tools so that they can better teach Shakespeare and other text-based work in the classroom.
Yes.
What are some of the parallels that you've been able to draw between what's happening right now with WillPower and what we experienced with the Summer Educator Intensive?
There's a few. So the first I'll talk about, the first correlation is I start to develop relationships with the educators that we're working with, our contacts in our schools.
Right.
And the challenges that they're expressing in their districts about bringing outside programming or just teaching Shakespeare, teaching, anything that they're working on in their ELA classes.
Right.
The challenges are English
arts.
language arts.
Sure.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So the challenges across the board, there's a pattern. We see these challenges coming up and up and up. And at SEI, at the Summer Educator Intensive, we had time built into our day to sort of discuss some of these challenges and some of the ways that we can approach them, right?
Yeah.
So that's been really great. I've learned a lot more about that through WillPower and the contacts that I've made there. But then also in terms of what's happening in the classroom, some of the things that I've learned from our workshops at with the WillPower Tour, we've brought to our teachers, and they found that really helpful. But it's the philosophy, I think, right? Again, that learning should be fun, and that when you can bring someone's whole self to a lesson, when you can get it in their bodies, when you can get it in their mouths, speaking the language, moving as the characters, if you can get them thinking about their own opinions about things, connecting to the characters in different ways, when you can make it a really kinetic experience, students tend to learn and remember and be affected by their lessons more and better. And so that's what we're trying to do with SEI, is bring these teachers together, not only to solve problems and talk about challenges, but also to give them things that they can literally take back and do with their students in the classroom. They create lesson plans. We give them like a whole bunch of resources and documents and things like that they can use, discussion prompts, all that good stuff. But the WillPower Tour and Summer Educator Intensive are really connected in that philosophy, I think, that like you bring the whole self to the lesson and you're going to learn it a lot better.
Have you heard back from some of those summer educator participants this fall with some of the lesson plans that you provided and some of the tools? Can you talk a little bit about what the follow-up has been like with that?
So so first of all, they've created a bit of a community. From what I understand, they still keep in touch with each other and have dinner once in a while, like at somebody's house,
That's great.
But we are bringing the WillPower Tour to a lot of the teachers' schools. They made it a real point to like make sure like, we have to get this in here for our students.
Great.
And so they are trying to use what they learned from us, not only when they're teaching Shakespeare, but they're bringing those ideas, those studies into other things that they're teaching as well, which is really exciting and kind of what I was hoping for. You start to see that happening. Being like, we have All American Lit this year. I'm teaching All American Lit, but I'm using that exercise about creating the art gallery with a piece with a piece of dialogue from this book that we're reading or whatever, right?
Wonderful.
So they're using and they're critical thinking forward, right? Like they're using these exercises and implementing them in other ways that are helpful, not just in the Shakespeare part of their curriculum.
So Kim, I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast, but you worked in the classroom. You were teaching at Darin High School for a year. So you've got some of this experience yourself, and then you worked with some teachers over the summer, and now you're working on the WillPower Tour that's going into a variety of classrooms over the course of a 6-week tour. What are some of the challenges that you're hearing about or you've been experiencing yourself in the classroom that maybe an audience member who is just a general lover of Shakespeare isn't necessarily aware of? What are some of the challenges that
so
they might be facing?
There's practical things, right? There's the practical side of it, and then there's the sort of more emotional side of it. The practical side is quite honestly financing.
Yeah.
Time and money in our schools is being cut. And our teachers are really feeling the effects of that. And our students are really feeling the effects of that. We do bring the WillPower Tour to a number of schools at a discounted cost or even at no cost to them through some generous funding through other donors and things like that.
Yeah.
We are incredibly lucky to have folks like the Trexler Trust, for example, who helps fund some of this to support us going into some of these classrooms and some of these other schools who couldn't have us otherwise.
And the Shakespeare and American Communities program through the National Endowment for the Arts, which we have been a participant in for a number of years.
Yes. Thank you to them as well. So we are doing our best to get out to as much as we can.
Right.
And schools, I think because a lot of schools are finding themselves understaffed or, teachers are, like we hear this all the time, teachers are overworked and underpaid, right? So bringing more things, bringing in new programs or new ways of thinking, new styles of teaching can be challenging because it's extra work for folks who are already working so hard. Right. But there are teachers out there, there are schools out there, principals and superintendents who are like, this is worth it, right? It's worth it because we see the effect and the impact that it has on the students. And so I'm really grateful for that. But that is a huge challenge. That's a huge challenge for folks. And then there is the challenge of particularly when you meet with a underprivileged school or certain demographics, the students feel like this isn't for me, right? They read it and they go, this isn't for me. This was some old dude who was writing over 400 years ago
in England.
This isn't, and he doesn't speak the way I speak, and they don't dress the way I dress, and all that stuff. And so we are trying, and I know my fellow educators are trying in their schools to say, no, this is for you. You can connect to these characters. And this language, we love to talk about language being this living organism. It changes all the time. And you know who changes the language the most? High school and middle school students.
Yeah.
Think about all the slang that, I, as a 42-year-old woman, I'm like, what? What does that mean? Why is everyone saying 6, 7? Like, I don't get it, right? So when they read Shakespeare, I love to be like, the language is just younger. It's just a younger language. Shakespeare was coming up with new terms and creating new slang the same way that you do. And I think when when we shift the thinking a little bit, we go, this is for you. This is about you. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that's most exciting about working with Shakespeare, because the language was in such a creative form at the time. Not only was the written English language still being created, and we know that like Shakespeare himself probably spelled his name at least 7 different ways. Like there wasn't a fixed form on how the language was written, on rules of grammar or syntax necessarily, and Shakespeare, we know so many words and phrases first show up in the plays of William Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And that was part of that, you could just say, was the creative genius of the individual. What it really also is a cultural moment when the language that people were commonly speaking to each other in community was really continually being adapted and changed and reformed.
Right.
And we are definitely finding ourselves in that time. And maybe it's always been like that, and we're just now noticing it. I don't know. But you're right, Kim, like in the classroom, but also just in common life, so many new words every year being added to the dictionary.
Yeah. When kids don't feel like Shakespeare is for them, and they don't feel that relationship, there is something to be said for that live performance.
Yeah.
When I was watching Arrianna do Lady Macbeth, there was a moment where I didn't realize how wonderfully sarcastic she was and how wickedly funny this character can be.
Well, I don't know the exact line. It's something like, you have displaced the mirth, broke the good meeting.
Again, I can't.
There's more, right? Like even when Macker says, I may do all that may become a man who may do more as none, and Lady M responds, what beast was it then that made you break this enterprise with me? Like when you just do it, then you were a man, right? You were a man before, but now you're not a man now. So what was the beast that kind of sarcasm is just really rich.
It's really rich. And when you see it performed, it's so relatable that it makes sense. Whereas when I was reading it, it didn't make sense. I thought, this is a dead old guy. This is not for me. And once you see it alive, it becomes really fun and wicked.
It becomes human.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. And it's so understandable and so attainable when it comes to how the language is presented. But I didn't know that when I was reading it the first time. This was inaccessible to me. And seeing that performed and seeing it alive changed it for me, not as, Connie, the old lady who's grown up, but, just going in there completely cold.
Lady.
Honestly, like I remember enjoying Macbeth because there was a lot of blood and a lot of gore, and it was easily digestible, but I don't remember enjoying it in that it colored my experience with Shakespeare.
Oh, interesting.
And when I saw it performed, I had not reread it. I just kind of went in cold and said, yeah, I know the story. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, I didn't know Lady M was so manipulative. And, what I remembered was, there were a couple of witches.
Yeah.
3 of them.
No, I mean, the community are in the midst of a cultural and political upheaval.
Yeah.
Right? Like, within the first, 15 minutes of the show, the king gets murdered.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of suspicion as to who it is. We know we're immediately looped in on the fact that it was Macbeth who did it, and Lady M really pushing him to do it. And he's freaking out after he did it, and she helps to to smear the blood on the guards in order to frame them, right? Which then Macbeth decides to kill them too. So we're in on who did it, and what we're watching is a lot of people on stage who have suspicions, who don't know who to trust anymore. They thought they all knew who to trust, and Duncan, his greatest mistake was trusting too much the people around him. But now no one's trusting anybody, and I think that one of the reasons why this play is so relatable, especially for a teenage audience, and as a great intro into Shakespeare, is that I think that the drives and the motivations are so, because they're so primal, they're also so relatable, and that there's suddenly a group of people and they don't know who to trust around them. And I think that these high school students understand being in a situation where they don't know who to trust, or they can relate to that. They can relate to suddenly everything's changed around them, and now how do we respond?
I've had great conversations with some high schoolers now who've seen it, and they talk about how they are fascinated with the idea of, like, if Macbeth hadn't met the witches, what would have happened? Like, does he do it because they told him that's what was going to happen, or would he have done it anyway? And they love talking about that. They find it really fascinating. So it's cool.
And I feel like we're all Ross. Like, we start from here, and we start as someone who can be on the side of Macbeth and watch him sort of fall into this crazy homicidal person. And you have Ross, who was so trusting, and as they go through, realize this is not the person I thought it was.
Yeah, sure.
And it's so relatable, that character, as, watching the whole evolutionary process of someone's relationship with leadership change.
Sure. Yeah, like, how long can you hold out your expectation or your ideal of who this person is versus the information in front of your face on who this person actually is, and how and how long those two things can be in conflict before you're willing to kind of accept the fact that the person that you idealized as your leader, as the person you trusted, actually isn't that. And in fact, you actually have to accept the person for who they are, and perhaps it's not who you wanted them to be. Yeah, absolutely. You were talking about approaching the show for the first time, and I know that that your 11-year-old had a chance to see this show.
That's right.
What was Sejong's response to it? I'm curious.
Well, so Sejong he has a book called Shakespearean Stories for Kids.
Oh boy.
And Graham gave it to him maybe 3 or 4 years ago, thinking, this is going to be a Shakespearean scholar right here. And so she was very excited. And so he had read the kids' version of the story. So when he came in, he's like, oh, this is the one about the guy who kills the king, becomes the king, and then is killed for someone else to be the king. And I was like, that's the story in a nutshell. Yeah, that's right. And he watched it, and he was really, really intrigued by the whole play. He was talking a lot about, well, for one thing, the first thing he asked is, like, were the swords real?
Sure.
Because they can't stop with that.
Of course, yeah.
But he absolutely was entranced by it. He thought it was strange, and there was the magic that was in it, you know, with the witches. And he actually did ask the same thing, that those kids, if he didn't meet the witches, would he have become who he was? Yeah. And he wanted to know, how much was Lady Macbeth to blame in this whole process? If she didn't poke him, because he had already been honored with a title.
Right.
So if she didn't poke him to say, get more, what would have happened? Sejong was very, very curious about this whole play. And I do wonder if this is his gateway into more Shakespeare.
Interesting.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, in just a moment, we're actually going to be talking with a few of our WillPower company members, and we can ask some of these questions. So we're going to be saying hello to David Andrew Laws, Arrianna Daniels, and Darin Frankie Earl II.
Some stories fade, others become legend. Join the Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival Book Club, Bard and Beyond, and unearth the legacies that inspire our storytelling. Visit pashakespeare.org/book club for more details.
We're joined now by a few members of the WillPower company. David Andrew Laws, who plays Macbeth, Darin Frankie Earl II, who plays Duncan, and Arrianna Daniels, Our Lady Macbeth. All three were on stage together this summer in our rep of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead and Hamlet, and they together created a lot of our very fun shenanigans. And two of these members were a part of WillPower tour from years past, but this is the first tour where all three of them are together touring around Pennsylvania and New Jersey as a part of the WillPower company, our 25th anniversary season. So, David, Arrianna, Frankie, welcome.
Thank you. Here we are. Hello.
Good morning.
Together again.
Yes.
David, let's start with you.
Great.
You've now performed both on our main stages and on the WillPower. What's it like taking on Macbeth in this touring version that's designed for students?
It's very different from playing Bottom in Midsummer. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's fun and it's wild. It's I'm feeling very lucky and very grateful for the whole experience. It's also just like, it's one of those things where I have no choice but to leave it all on the field. Every show, there's a world where you could go like, even though it's for high schoolers, you would do less or do something different, but they deserve just as much energy as anybody else does. So
you said that it's different than playing Bottom, and that's last year you played. That was our first time having you here.
Yeah.
You played Bottom in our Midsummer Night's Dream. I think you were wearing those purple sunglasses that are on the table.
Absolutely was at your behest. You came and saw one of the tech performances and went, Bottom could be a little weirder. He has those purple glasses. I just have him wear those.
That's great.
So you're saying about leaving it all on the table, but you're playing Bottom, where you were the chief actor in this troupe of rude mechanicals, where you thought that you kind of knew what it was to be the best actor in the company, but you had your own kind of internal struggles and all of that. And you were playing a comedy, and now you are the title character in one of the bloodier of Shakespeare's tragedies, one of the spookier of Shakespeare's tragedies, and also psychologically a pretty complicated character compared to Bottom. Help me unpack a little bit of the difference in how you prepare for those two kinds of things, both as an actor getting ready to walk in, and also like, what do you leave on the table, and how does that relate with the audience?
Well, to be fair, Bottom doesn't leave much on the table either. I was just as sweaty at the end of The Play Within a Play as I am at the end of Macbeth. But I actually had a change in the character of Macbeth very recently after a conversation with a friend that I was really grateful for.
Okay.
At the end of Macbeth, I'd been making this comparison that Hamlet, at the end of Hamlet, dies, obviously.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yep.
But at least gets some revenge, gets some catharsis there at the end. Macbeth has lost everything. Lost his wife, lost his crown, and loses the fight at the end. And I was going off stage and I was just absolutely gut-wrenchingly spent every night. And I had a conversation with a friend who was like, well, when I played him, I took solace in the fact that Macbeth's a fighter. Macbeth's a warrior, a soldier. Yeah. At the end of the day, what he's best at and what he loves most is being told, hey, go kill that guy. I think this political side of him, this royalty side of him, is a lot more difficult for Macbeth to step into. And so I was taking that solace in the past few times that we've been doing it, and just sort of like finding that comfort of, this is where I should be, this is what I should be doing. And actually today, when we did the show today, I lost that fight and went off stage, and I was surprised.
Really?
I went off stage and went, oh, I lost. How did that happen? And so that I think is the biggest difference. There are a lot of similarities between the two. They both,
lack some self-awareness.
Lack of self. I think that's a great way to put it. But again, we're leaving it all on the field either way.
Awesome. And you got to sport an awesome mohawk this year too.
Got to.
Have to.
He did it himself.
I did it myself.
Was that a character choice?
We were gonna buzz it militaristically, and then Fife was like, I don't know, leave something on top, and I was like, haha, like a mohawk, and he was like, yeah, haha, like a mohawk. Let's see. Worst case, we'll just cut it all off, but it works.
Great. Yeah. Frankie.
Yes, sir.
You have played a lot of different Shakespearean roles.
Yeah.
And you're starting to really kind of expand some of your canon here at PSF, even in the short amount of time you've been here. How does performing for a school audience change your approach as an actor?
They're very honest. They are very real in their responses. And it's really important to me that we all have a good time when we're on the stage, and that they have a good time when they're in the audience. So really listening to them, really taking their responses is helpful and informative for me. I also find that when they laugh and they approve, I work a little bit harder for them.
No, that's when they're supposed to be laughing, right?
Sometimes. Sometimes a little bit of shame that happens when things go left. But they're usually really, really there with us the whole way through. So going in and prepping and figuring out like, how are we arriving in the roles today? How are we feeling in the roles today? And then they just they vitalize everything that happens when I step on stage anyway. So
something that we don't often talk about, but something very real for doing educational tour is the schedule. Right? There's the waking up, like before actors are typically want to wake up. I think Stephen Stanislavski talks about how like actors wake up late, right? They stay up late, they wake up late, but not actors on educational tours. You have to wake up early. You have to bring it for like an 8 o'clock show. Arrianna, can you talk about what it's like to have to deliver a role like Lady M or an Ophelia, which you also did a couple of years ago? What's it like to have to be on while your breakfast is still digesting?
It's funny you say that because I try not to eat before we do a show.
Wise.
I keep some caffeine in there and that's about it. But I do think it is a lot of what Frankie was saying in terms of showing up with where you're at for the day. I do a lot of isolating backstage. I just like to center and meditate. Laws and I have kind of a little pre-show check-in where we just make some type of physical connection with each other, whether that's, forehead to forehead or holding hands, whatever it may be. So it really is just about kind of taking in the environment that you're in. I kind of get a thrill out of being in a new space every time. So that's my jolt of energy for the day. Of course, when we're in a theater, that's the best place that I could ever hope to be. So I could just lay there on stage the whole time until I feel like I'm sinking into it. Yeah.
I love that. Arrianna, I want to stick around with you for a second because you recently posted something on Facebook that really caught my attention. And that was how this is kind of a first full circle moment for you. Can you talk a little bit about what it's like to play Lady M specifically for you?
Sure. So my introduction to the Pennsylvania Shakespeare Fest was WillPower coming to my school when I was a sophomore in high school. They did a production of Macbeth. Brandon Burton was in it. I remember him distinctly saying, "Turn, hellhound, turn."
Wow.
As Macduff, I've come to learn over the summer that it was directed by a very dear friend, Miss Gina Lamparella.
Amazing.
So I remember aspects of that production, scene for scene, in terms of what they were wearing and what the lighting was like, because I think I was sitting maybe 4 rows back at the time.
Wow.
And I didn't understand Shakespeare. People tried to get me into it with Romeo and Juliet, and my brain was not comprehending anything that was going on. So it wasn't until I actually got to see these actors embody these characters where I started to kind of, turn into this love that I have now for Shakespeare. So from there, I got, into the Shakespeare competitions that PSF offers and eventually fell in love with it enough to the point where I am an alum of DeSales University and got to work here. So it's kind of a strange turnaround coming back here, almost over a decade, I suppose.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So then how do we keep that going? Okay. So we've made one circle. We made one rotation of that circle. So then what's next? Like, how do we complete that circle again, Arrianna? What does that look like?
Oh my goodness.
You got to direct it. You got to
Right?
direct
So,
it.
yeah,
That's the thing. Laws keep saying that I have to direct something of this.
It's coming.
So what is it about that? I mean, because you got the three of you spend a lot of time together.
Yeah. Yes.
And now David or Laws, as we're saying.
Both.
Yeah, it's good. Just so that we know, so our audience knows who we're talking about. So now, Laws, you're saying to Arrianna that she's got to direct it. What is it about Arrianna that she needs to be directing this?
We're really lucky in the room that we're in, doing the WillPower tour, especially, and working with Fife, that it is such an open room. Be that lines that we want to add in or subtract or ideas that we have. We literally, after Arrianna and I did some work, we literally restaged an entire scene, like changed where a table was because it worked better when we were working just on the two of us. And Fife was like, yeah, fine, works for me. And so I see a lot of Arrianna's opinions.
Okay.
And in a good way, don't hide your face. And just a lot of the conversations that we have about our characters and about the parts of the show that we get to see are really enlightening to, if I were directing, I would do this, or I would do that, or I would, in a different, WillPower is so specific. It kind of has to be what it is because it's an 85-minute cut of a touring show.
Yeah.
But they're just, we have a lot of thoughts. We have a lot of big ideas. Love the show, right? It's such a touchstone for you, Arrianna, from your past. And like, I did Drunk Shakespeare. I played Macbeth for over 400 productions. It's a very different experience playing Macbeth and Macduff there.
Sure.
But,
sober Shakespeare. Very high school sober Shakespeare.
Very, yeah. Promise.
We started I'm supposed to have a jar at the moment full of quarters. So every time he brings up, when we did this in Drunk Shakespeare.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting payment soon.
I don't know that my check will cover that. I talk about it a lot.
But the beautiful thing is that it's always in service of like all these opinions, all these wonderful ideas are always in service of the best part of the shows that we can enhance, the best product that we can bring to the students. And it's really nice. It's a really nice room.
So speaking of it being a great room, and no doubt lots of people who've worked with Matt Fiver have talked about the kind of room that he creates. The three of you met over the summer. Yes.
Yeah.
What is it about how you were working together in the ensemble of the Rep, and then what's that like kind of carrying that relationship and developing that relationship over these last few months into where you are now, the three of you specifically?
Who wants to talk about our group chat?
I'm so excited to see how real we're about to get here. Because honestly, Frankie claimed me from the beginning. Right? I remember I went through the day we got the cast list for the Rep over the summer, and I was like following everyone on Instagram. And like 2 seconds after I had friend requested Frankie DM'd me and was like, "Hi, we're gonna be friends. I hope that's okay with you." And I was like, "Hell yeah,
it's true.
Cool.
It's true. When you go into new spaces, you find people that really resonate with you, and their vibe is just something that you appreciate. And being in the room with both of you at the same time, I was like, these are my people. I see it immediately. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I kind of got roped into your duo.
You did.
You said, "Oh, you're also non-equity, so get over here." So it's our little non-ec cohort.
Yeah.
We have a group chat called Tinfoil Hat Trio.
It's a reference to the Tin Hat Trio. That was was it Ian? Was like
Sure.
Ian Peach was like, "Have you heard this band?" And we were like, "No." And so we have a little group chat, and we would go to Wawa sometimes, and it was really funny because like the three of us were obviously close and obviously developed a relationship over the summer. But then when it was going to be Arrianna and I as Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, there was a lot of people would say to us like, "Oh yeah, you guys are so close. You've worked with each other so much. Like obviously it's gonna be great. You'll be fine." And we were both like, "That's not entirely true. We don't know each other that well."
No.
We didn't have any scenes together in the shows that we were doing over the summer. Yeah. We knew each other socially and like hung out by the fire and stuff. But it was a deep dive into the intimacy that we needed to play these parts. So
keep going with that. Tell me more about that. What did it take, and what has it taken for you guys to really kind of connect as Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, and the intimacy that's required? What was that process like for the two of you?
I think it's trust.
Yeah.
Before we even got into the room for the first day of rehearsal, David and I would get on Zoom and just read through the script and start to, analyze the scenes and figure out where we're coming from. I think we met maybe 3 times or so, and once with Fife as well. So we had a vision or a lot of ideas to come to the table ready to work, because we know that it's such a short amount of time when we come into WillPower.
Right.
Knowing what this process is, having done WillPower before, it was easier for the two of us to kind of jump into the work, knowing full well what we're getting into. But being in the room, I mean, I really do think it just comes into like, you know what? We don't know what this relationship is until we just dive into it. We set a lot of boundaries. We talk very openly about like what's comfortable, what's okay, what's not. And in all honesty, I think a lot of our intimacy and physical contact that happens on stage changes day to day. But it's just based on what we set with each other at the beginning of that particular performance.
We're really fortunate, I think, that we both work very similarly and sort of tapped into that very early in the process, that we were both very, ready to be comfortable with each other, ready to push each other as naturally as the relationship inside the play is, right? We push each other. We'll talk about something and I'll go like, "Oh, I'm thinking about doing this, but like I'm, worried about X, Y, and Z." And Arrianna will go, "Just do it. Just do it. What are you talking about? Just do it."
No, but I truly loved the day. There was a moment where it was just the two of us and Maz, our lovely stage manager, in the room with us, where Fife, unfortunately, could not be there with us. He had a prior commitment. So we were just working for about 3 hours, just the three of us. And we were playing in a way that I haven't felt since college at that point, where we were able to run a scene 10 different times, and try it knowing full well that what we're doing could not be staged at all. But what would happen if we're at two different ends of the room and we're shouting at each other in this banquet moment? And
what if we do one where we just whisper? What if we
Yes.
we love to play. Again, that's where
Yeah.
we're fortunate, is that like a lot of actors have a lot of different processes and need to come from things from the way that they do. And I think we both come to it from a place of joy and play.
That sounds awesome. How does that manifest itself in the daily performance that requires some continuity, some consistency? How does that ability or that desire to play then still live in the work that the two of you are doing?
I'll jump in and say that you've actually set the tone for a lot of us on tour in the way that not just the rehearsal room, like we've all been so inspired to just jump in and play as well and like go on the adventure with Fife and try to figure it out. But because y'all are such leaders for the tour, a lot of people have been like not falling in line, but like listening to themselves, listening to where we are, and then taking things a little bit more seriously than we probably we need to sometimes. So
Thanks,
you're setting a
Well,
great
thank you for
tone.
that.
Absolutely.
I think what it,
Go.
you, me?
Yeah, go.
Me. I mean, I was just going to say what it definitely means is that our blocking is loose at best.
It's loose blocking for sure. But
Good
what I
thing
was,
there's a general light wash on stage.
Let's play.
where's the light at?
But what it means is that we have a lot of conversations about what we're like we've talked about the whole time. It's about bringing what you've got to the table, right? And we basically every day go, what do you want to find today?
Yes, that part. See, that's why I wanted to touch on, because David likes to give prompts
I
sometimes.
do?
You do. You're just like, what do you need from me today? Or like,
Sure.
what do you want to happen on stage? So sometimes I'll just say, scare me.
Yes, that was
Like
the first
find
one.
a new moment where you can scare me. I don't know. Like surprise me. Today, I
Surprise
think
me.
our goal was to find joy.
Yep.
We wanted to find joy more and more rather than just, all the tension and the fences and the walls that get put up between these two characters. It was like they have such few scenes together and they only have that one moment where they're king and queen walking in for the inauguration where we see like they're still kind of on the same page.
What I'm realizing in this conversation, the similarity is we're both very analytical.
Oh, that too.
So we'll go into a day and go,
Sure.
all right, today we're going to crank the love dial up 20%. Or today we're going to, run an experiment. See if you can confuse me. I think was one of them. Right?
Oh, yes, I did.
Make a choice that confuses me. She did. I was confused.
No, but it was fun because what did I do? Oh,
You knelt.
I did.
It was when you were explaining how we were going to kill Duncan. You like full on walked away from me and soliloquized and knelt on the side of the stage. And I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to watch this picture she's painting. This looks great.
Wow.
But I like looking back at you because then you do like double takes. And I was like, ha ha ha, I got him.
What I'm hearing are two actors who just require a presence, which then requires active listening on stage.
Yes.
So then you never know exactly what's going to be happening next.
Yes.
Yeah. We can't take any of it for granted. Yeah. Especially, I mean, like Frankie was saying, is with the students,
right?
We can't assume they're going to do anything.
Right.
We can't assume they're going to be quiet. We can't assume they're going to react. We can't assume they're going to understand.
Right.
So we have to be so present with them.
And this is not the kind of show where, except for the porter, and we can talk about this, I want to come back to the porter, except for the porter, you can't necessarily expect a verbal response, right? Because when you do a comedy, when you play Bottom of Midsummer Night's Dream, you know if the audience is following along because of the thing called laughter, right? Like you get that. When you're doing a tragedy, when you're doing Macbeth, fewer opportunities for laughter. So how have you three, and I know that, Frankie, as the porter, you get an opportunity, you even get some, knock, knock, who's there moments. So you get audience response, but how do you gauge whether they're with you or not? Is it something you're just feeling? Are you listening? Are you able to kind of tap into that? What's that been like for you on the road now the last couple of weeks?
I think, David, you're a bit more tapped into what the students are saying and doing. And I kind of put a wall up sometimes.
Yeah.
But when I love the moments where there's stillness in the room, where there could be chattering in the students or there could be laughter or discomfort. But when I can't hear anything and it's just a pin drop, I'm like, oh, that moment was good. Like we hit something in that moment that resonated with the vast majority of the students there, that they're locked into the story.
And the only consistency I would say is at the end, right? A lot of times they'll gasp at the blood. Or they'll laugh when Arrianna jumps into my arms. Or they'll react when we find out that Lady Macbeth is dead.
Mm-hmm.
But that stillness is so important, and it's just that moment at the end. I think pretty without fail, they applaud and they like it and they cheer and they woo. And it's like, even if you spent the whole play going, I don't think they're getting it, I don't think they're with us, they were, and they let us know that at the end, which is always really gratifying. Yeah. And then again, and then there's nothing we can expect. Today's was every time Arrianna and I were on stage together, it was them going, kiss. And like the first scene, that was one thing, but we feel like got blood on our hands, and they're like catcalling us. And it's like, all right,
it's a little much, friends.
Kids, come on.
See, I didn't hear it.
I'm glad you didn't hear it.
Yeah.
I soliloquize with them a lot more. I'm tapped in.
Yeah. So David, you soliloquize with them. You bring them into the audience. Frankie, as Duncan, you don't, but then you get the opportunity as the gravedigger, and you really do actually have dialogue with the audience.
Porter,
not
baby,
big
porter.
Did I say the gravedigger?
Yeah. Melding the two worlds. Yeah.
Well, it's also like the other one comedic role.
Sure.
Right.
So the porter. So sorry.
Yeah.
So you get to be the porter, and you get to connect with the audience. What's your experience like with
the porter's probably one of the hardest roles that I've ever had to do. For some reason, he just wasn't holding my hand on this journey.
I don't think you're alone on that. I think there are a lot of people on that struggle bus as the porter.
Yeah. But it's a very exciting and exhilarating ride with the students. I see them out there in their eyes. I see them, the eagerness. That first pratfall I have, they're like, oh, he's dead. Oh, he definitely wiped out on that stage. And then I pop up and I do little silly things with them, and inviting them into our world even more than they've already been. Feels really good to have that moment with them. And then finding ways to like make them play the game if they're not openly and willing, excited about like voicing in the audience. Finding ways to make them feel like it's okay for you to give us a little bit more vocal expression and engagement. And at the end of the porter scene today, we got a little bit more excitement than we usually do.
You got
which was
cheers.
nice.
Yeah, it was.
You get applause.
You really
I've heard
do.
it a few times at these schools now.
Well, maybe I'm just tapped out by then.
It's such a good reminder, that scene and the way that you play it, that the thing that they identify so often at the end is like, it's live. Like we tell them at the beginning, we can see you can see us. Like don't forget that there's not a screen here. Like the other day you went down and there was like a piano in the auditorium, and you like played some keys on the piano. And
a little
it's
fun.
just that, like, it's not even like taking the fourth wall down. It's like you breathed on the fourth wall and then like drew a smiley face on it or something. It's just such a like, yeah, we got you. We're here.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah.
Can we talk about Knock Knock?
Yes, let's talk about Knock Knock.
Where did this Knock Knock Who's There whole idea kind of come from?
You know what?
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
That's a great question. Shakespeare, I got many questions for you. Matt Pfeiffer, our wonderful director, he had the pleasure of doing Porter before, and so he really sat down with me and was like, all right, what do you want this to look like? What do you want this to feel like? And so I tried out a whole bunch of different knock knock jokes in the room. It elicited a chuckle almost every time. I thought I was doing real great with those jokes. And then we discovered that the larger group was what we needed to cater to, as opposed to having a closer one-on-one or smaller interaction with the audience. And so that knock knock just evolved into, hey, audience, it's your time to participate. Hey, audience, let's giggle. Let's be a little silly. And we cut out, obviously, the jokes that aren't appropriate for school. And we've replaced
most
it
of
with
them. Some of those.
that farmer is a little.
Makes him stand to and not stand to.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, Shakespeare had body jokes in there, right?
Yeah.
There are dirty jokes everywhere. Just how much can you really dial those up?
Right. Make them tasteful.
Are there ways that you're able to kind of adjust on the fly based on how the audience is feeding back to you?
I think it goes back to a lot of what I was saying before in terms of tell the story and tell it well, and they will glean what they glean. And I think we've been in audiences before where there's a lot of chaos, or we think that it's going to be a very rough audience, but in the grand scheme of things, you start to hear it simmer out and hear people lock in. And by the end of it, I'm pleasantly surprised by what we've been able to work on or bridge that community between us and the audience.
It's like that difference between comedy and tragedy. It's just, again, they don't really have the vocabulary to tell you until it's over, right? And a show that feels like it was totally flat or totally was uninterested or whatever, like that doesn't serve, obviously, and gets disproven at the end. We like, oh, you were there. Oh, good. I'm glad you were there.
So when this particular show is over, you do talkbacks. I'm really curious to hear what are the conversations? What are the questions? Have there been continuity in the kinds of questions that you've been receiving, or have they been kind of all over the place? What are some standout questions that you remember the most?
We get a really good mixture of super analytical questions and then silly questions that are usually expected at a talkback. I think one of my favorite ones that happened today, right, where the student was like, why do you think the things happened to Macbeth the way that they did?
That's been the thing. And I think the two categories that we hit most frequently are questions about being an actor, right? Do you get nervous? How do you memorize the lines? How do you prepare? Are the swords real? And then the other side of that is the relationships. Why did this happen? What, why did this person do this to this person?
Was it like playing the villain, but you didn't think that you were a villain?
That was a question. Yeah. It was such a and we love that. We love, obviously, like turning it around on them to get their opinions as well. And so it'll be like, why did Macbeth see the dagger before he went to kill Duncan? And it's like, well, why do you think? Well, I have my reasons that I do them every night, but what do you think? And they love engaging in that conversation. And there's always more questions than there are time, which is great. They're always so curious.
Arrianna, what's been a standout for you?
I think there's been a few moments now where I have to remind myself that a lot of these students are seeing this show or being introduced to Macbeth for the first time. So when I hear the line, "The Queen, my lord, is dead," and I hear gasps in the audience, or "No," yelling in the distance, I was like, "Oh, yay, we've done our job," So I'm so grateful, and I'm so pleasantly surprised when I hear how fresh this story is to all of these ears. I was like, wow, sometimes I wish that I could hear or see Macbeth for the first time again.
Right.
So I think it's just a lot of that. It's the wonder that I keep hearing from all the students.
Frankie,
ask the question again.
I don't remember the question.
About time.
Standout.
That was
standout.
I think we all hit on
would bubble to the surface immediately.
And the good news is we haven't gotten far enough on the tour yet to get to the silly ones.
Yeah,
sure.
I feel like those happen as we get more tired. Last year it was a lot of like, how tall are you?
Yeah.
Are any of you dating?
Oh, of course.
What shoe size do you wear? What? I'm not answering that. Stop.
But that's also like, I mean, maybe that's also like A Midsummer Night's Dream elicits that, right? Elicits that. It invites people to like embrace the silly a little bit. And this is a play that doesn't necessarily make as much space for that.
Right. It's very heavy for us and for them. Yeah.
And I don't think too heavy. I think that's been another really surprising thing in a good way, is that like they can handle it.
Yeah.
They're there for it. They don't glorify it, which is good. I had sort of said jokingly at the beginning of the process, I was like, the kids are either going to hate me or the ones that are going to think I'm cool miss the point.
Right.
Unfortunately, I don't think they're putting any of those. I think they get it. Whether they know that they get it or not, they really get it.
Right.
I'm reminded of like my first experience with this play. I think I was reading it. I think I like when I was a kid. I was like middle school or like reading like a truncated version of it, and then when I saw the play, I was like, oh, this is what I read. Like, and it was obviously a completely different experience. And Arrianna, your first experience with this was a WillPower performance. Frankie, do you remember what your first experience was with this play?
This is my first experience with this play.
This is your first experience with this play.
I've never seen it. I've never read it. This is my first experience.
Okay, so what's your big takeaway from this piece? Because this is fresh for you. You're an adult. You're a theater professional. You've been doing touring theater. You've been doing classical theater. You were at Utah Shakes. You've been all over the place. And this is your first experience with Macbeth. What's it been like for you?
I think Duncan is probably like the pillar of identity that I am. And love forward, confiding in the people that I resonate with the most, and loving and trusting to a fault. And so the consequences that happen surrounding everything, all the wonderful themes that are part of this play, they more or less help inform me as a human being, but also They help me analyze different styles of acting, different approaches in the way that, that students take away everything that we do for them. It's a really, really fascinating thing. And I've also learned that it's the quickest tragedy.
Because the shortest tragedy?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, Hamlet himself has more lines than this whole play does. Put together.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What a factoid.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just like knowing that this is all compacted into this one mighty play is just, and it, obviously lasts the legacy of time that it does. So
You play Duncan. You play the porter, not the gravedigger. Who else do you play in this?
a Seton and a murderer.
So you get 4 roles in this.
Yeah.
What's that like?
resume's pretty packed. What can I say?
Well, so you're unlike David and Arrianna, who have a through line of character from beginning to end. You have to step in and out of these 4 different kind of personas, and without any expectation on what that is supposed to be like. What is that like for you? Starting off as the trusting King Duncan, and then the porter, and then
JKJ, I love this challenge so much.
Yeah?
I like meeting my friends on stage where they're at, seeing what they're playing with for the day, and then being able to meet them and kind of like send them on their way with whatever like little context that I have.
Yeah.
The Seton's a little anxious being, so I get all my energy out for that. And the murderer is just the ugliest parts that we could possibly find for the day. But I also have check-ins with the scene partners in those scenes, and we all kind of like find little ways to boost and support the story how best we can, just like our leads are carrying it in the same way,
It's so interesting though. Like, I just want to dig in on this a little bit. Of the 4 characters that you play, one of them is a servant with the name Seton, sometimes mispronounces Satan, and we can kind of get into that.
Yeah, right.
Then you've got the King Duncan, who is the person who has absolute trust on people more than once, and dies. One of the reasons that he dies is because
he's Achilles' heel. Absolutely,
he's too trusting. And then you play 2 other characters that are named by their function, right? The porter is a porter who, and one of them,
door.
right? And one of the more eloquent of them, and comedic, right? And then the murderer. Guy doesn't even have
Murderer
a name. Murderer one, right?
Yeah. Let's get in there.
Right. But really, as far as the audience is concerned, they don't know this person. They have no name. They just like, oh, you're a person that comes in that Macbeth is invited in to say, like, hey, you remember all this thing that I told you? Banquo's your enemy, right? What are you gonna do about that?
Right,
just like mine. And so you're gonna kill him, right? Oh yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. What kind of preparation was required in order to make that happen? Did you create backstory? I'm curious about like actor process for minor characters, especially when you got to dip in and out.
Yeah.
Like, did you give yourself that, or are you just like here to just like, I serve a purpose, I have lines, I'm going to menace, and I'm going to exit stage left?
This is a great question. I just came up with their names the other day.
You have names for the murderer?
I do. Let's see if I can pull it up.
Oh, I really want to
It's
know
all
this.
like very old Scottish, so I'm going to butcher these pronunciations. But who has those names anymore? Odart, the porter.
Odart.
Lamond, first murderer. That's Scottish, believe it or not. And Suanach, the Seton.
Suanach.
So...
Oh, so the Seton is also a job and not...
Well, yeah, it could be his name. I'm saying that
You've
it's
given yourself
a
the
job.
first name.
That
Yeah.
yes,
I
I
love
wanted
it.
the first name.
I love
Aside from the names being attached to their roles, you don't necessarily need to know who I am in order to know the change that I'm having on the plot, right?
Yeah.
I am a very physical kind of guy, so putting on the costume, using the prop that I have, seeing what weight kind of like lives in my body, where that resonates, heart center, will center, thinking center, all that lovely stuff, technique. All that helps me understand where I'm coming from, and then what I receive on stage informs where I'm going. And so there's a little bit of prep, but also a mixture of what's before me and what's happening with the audience, what we're hearing, what we're feeling.
That's awesome.
Names are so important. You know Lady Macbeth's name, right?
What is it?
It's Chuck. Be innocent of the knowledge.
No.
Dearest Chuck.
Yes.
No, her name historically sounds vile. It's Gruach Ingenboit.
Whoa.
Yes.
So
That is
good.
her historical name.
Wow.
So I was like, yeah, I think Lady,
I like Chuck.
It's so nice on the ears. Say it again.
Ruach?
Gruach.
Here's your ASMR.
Dearest Chuck. Okay, so two questions to wrap all this up. One is about the themes of this play and how the themes of this play seem to still be alive and be resonant and still feel like we need to tell this story. Is it coming up in the talk back? Are you having those conversations with the students? Curious if this the themes that are happening in this play about revenge, about the kind of about is it the futility of it, about selfishness, about power and the hunger for power? Is this coming up at all? Or are any of the students picking up these themes and feeding back in questions?
I don't know that they are yet. And I don't know that they're going to yet. I think those are the kinds of things that they don't even know they're learning and taking away yet. And will come up and they will have a touchstone for that in the future. To be able to say, oh, I've thought about this before. I've processed this before. I've experienced this before.
I will say that AJ Ruger or Malcolm, they shared that a student came up to them today and said that it was really cool to see that they became king at the end of the play. Them and their body became king at the end of the play. And it was a moment for AJ where they were like, this is why I do what I do. This is why I come into the spaces as who I am. And that was something that I was like, right, we are multifaceted. We're telling a new story of Macbeth with our bodies that we have on stage. One of the things that Cy Coyles,
you can just say Cy.
I'm going to do this horrible. Okay, great. One of the things that Cy, our wonderful Macduff, says during the play is in that same scene with Malcolm about mourning the country. And I see the direct parallels with obviously all the things that we are seeing left, right, center, front, and back, upside down, inside out. And so that hits me backstage every time that we do the show. And I do hear the students quiet down in that scene as well. So they're probably, like you said, David, like listening and registering, but not really fully understanding, fully comprehending what's going on.
Which is so exciting for their brains to figure out later. Right? It's one of those things is like, you don't know, but your brain knows.
Right.
It'll tell you.
It'll
later.
get there.
Yeah, I think the first time I've done a production of Macbeth, I played Malcolm.
Okay.
So I'm always listening for that line, bleed, poor country. The title is feared. Like, oh, juicy. There's just a few lines here and there that unfortunately are still prominent.
You know, it's so weird. I was just say that, like, I've got a couple of decades on you guys, and I've remembered experiencing this show and kind of go like, wow, that must really suck to be a character in a play where you feel like you can't necessarily trust the land that you stand on, that you can't trust the world around you or the government that you abide within. We're not in a place where we are intending to be too political, but I think that we do have people in this country right now, people in this society that feel a lack of trust living where they live right now. And that it's one of the things I may have mentioned to you all before. But you know, during the American Revolution, there were some Shakespeare plays that were being performed. It was often soldiers that were performing them, and Coriolanus was one of them. King Lear was one of them, Caesar was one of them, and also Macbeth. But these plays, I think, that often had soldiers in roles, and they were done. There were loyalists who were performing in these plays and seeing them, and then of course, then there were revolutionary fighters who were also doing these plays.
Well, it is such an interesting, and this is a whole podcast episode in itself, is the American relationship to a play like this and to any of Shakespeare's plays that have monarchies in them is that there's a version of this play from the American standpoint that's like, well, good for Macbeth. He should have gotten it. He wanted it. He pulled up his bootstraps. He went and he got it. And his wife supported him the whole ding dang way.
So true. So true.
I don't know that that's the story we're telling, but like we have an interesting relationship to monarchy. So
I think it is, and I think it's one of the great things about Shakespeare's plays, particularly, is there are different ways these plays can resonate. Wherever a people are in their own cultures and their own society, there are different takeaways. And the beauty of being able to tell this story over and over and over again is to see how it resonates with us in any given era, in any given time.
I think this is why Duncan is so like such a strong center for me.
Yeah.
His line, the love that sometimes follows us is still our trouble, which we still think is love. It's like no matter what, in the face of adversity, you still need to like live your life. You need to still be present and be grateful and show up for your people in ways that they need the most and you also need the most, even in the darkest and hardest of times, you know, as we're going through it now, as he was going through it 400 some years ago.
Yeah. Last question for you all is about the thing that you all get to do with this show is also be teaching artists, going into the classroom, sharing some workshops, helping to educate the students, sometimes before the shows, sometimes after the shows. Doesn't always get to happen as well. What's the experience like being in the classroom, working with these students on some of these components of Shakespearean understanding and education, and then be able to take it into the show? What's that like?
It's always such a gift to be able to do the workshops with them, especially before. It humanizes us as people. And they come in and go, oh, I know those guys. I did a thing with them. It's another experience where they can surprise themselves with how much they can do and how much they can be free and play and laugh and learn.
Yeah, I mean, I teach a physicality workshop at the moment, as I love to play with. And I really try to incorporate it back into what they see in their daily lives in terms of telling stories without words. It was like I can gain a lot of information just based on like who's sitting like at the edge of their seat space, or the people who are, you know, arms crossed, slouched in their chair. I can start to pick up on things, and I see their eyes like light up in terms of, oh God, I'm being perceived. But then
I feel seen.
Exactly. But then also trying to say like, oh, maybe I can do that too. And if that's the simplest thing that I can do for them that day, so be it. But I do enjoy when people actually get into their bodies and start to take up space.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm the floater for the workshop, so I cover anybody if anybody needs me to. But being able to pop my head in and see all the different vibes for the day, it's really nice to see the students finally giving themselves a permission with us supporting them to take up the space and be able to be like, all right, this is a thing that I would never have done in a million years. And I'm finally exploring the creative side of my brain and not have to worry about fitting inside of a box. Not have to worry about being perceived by my peers if there are other strangers or new friends in this space who are saying that it's okay for me to actually just show up as I am. And that's a nice thing that I've seen kind of like pop up every now and then.
And that's not something that's necessarily in the curriculum, but that is the result of the work that happens year in and year out when teaching artists with WillPower go into the classroom, provide some curriculum. That what it also does is say that like you have value, you can be seen. I can give you tools on how to express yourself, how to take up space, how to have a voice, how to communicate in a way that maybe you didn't realize you could, or that you were already. To give you some tools to be empowered to then enter into the world a little bit differently. Thank you all for the work you're doing. Thank you for being on tour this year with WillPower. Thank you for being here. You remind us that Shakespeare isn't just for scholars, but it is for everyone and everywhere. And we're grateful for you and for everyone who makes WillPower what it is. Thank you, Frankie. Thank you, Arrianna. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thanks, pal.
When we come back, we are going to return to a season 1 favorite, and we're going to pull the curtain back on PSF's 35th season and what lies ahead.
Happy birthday, PSF.
Thank you.
Behind every standing ovation is a network of patrons who know that theater changes lives. With tickets funding only half the cost, PSF counts on contributions to produce world-class theater, cultivate new audiences, and nurture future generations of artists. Give today at pashakespeare.org/support. Great theater is a collaboration both on stage and off.
Act 3, a peek behind the curtain.
A peek behind the curtain.
I'm going to have to get a button.
Okay, so in today's Season 2, Episode 1, A Peek Behind the Curtain, we're going to talk a little bit about season planning and about our theme of Legends and Legacy for our 35th season. I've had a lot of folks who have asked me about why do we theme a season, and how do we select the plays that we do? And so I thought that perhaps we could just have a bit of a conversation about what does season planning look like? What are some of the challenges of season planning? Just to share a little bit about some of the work that we do in the advanced planning on making the season happen. So when we are planning a season, there are a few things that are involved in that conversation. One, we are looking at what have we done recently? What are our audiences really excited about? What do we want to make sure that when we're telling stories that get our audiences excited about wanting to come here and hopefully get new folks to come here as well. While also, of course, being focusing always on the mission that we have, on educating, entertaining, engaging, and enlightening the largest possible audience that we can have. For a long time now, we have a tradition of always doing a musical. We have a tradition of doing a rep of 2 plays. We have a tradition of doing the extreme Shakespeare, which is the original practices approach to Shakespeare. Those are the things that we have been doing year in and year out. We've also been doing children's theater, including the play for children and Shakespeare for kids, as well as now we've added our play on community tour. So there are these programs that we want to maintain as we're looking to continue to evolve and adapt over time. We do look at the programs that we have and we're like, okay, well, what can we do that aligns with each of these needs? So there are also some practical things. If we could do any musical we wanted, anytime we wanted to do a musical, we would be often selecting different shows than what we sometimes do. Sometimes we just have to get permission from the rights holders to see if even like a particular show is available.
Right.
So we do have a list of musicals that we go back to about 3 or 4 major rights holders in the country to say like, hey, is this musical available? Is this music available? We're looking at this show for this time of year. Is this particular show available? So that is one of the things that we hold on to. And I think if we think about the metaphor of season planning, like it's a giant plate that's like sitting on one kind of like, it's not a spinning plate, but it's just balancing. And we want to make sure that like we're balancing the whole thing across with the right kind of musical, the right kind of repertory, the right kind of children's show, balance of musicals, balance of comedies versus tragedies, potentially plays that are intellectually stimulating. The right balanced season kind of has a little bit of all of those things, with each of the pieces being productions that on their own audiences are going to go, I want to see that. But taken collectively, they all can help tell a larger story. And of course, we have on the main stage or in the Schubert Theater, we have a production history of Shakespeare plays. And it's very important for us that we don't repeat ourselves too often, too regularly.
Right.
So that's why we hold out on doing Hamlet maybe at least every 10 years, if not more. It's why you've seen a production of Henry IV Part 1, which was in 2019. That's not a play that's necessarily something that we're going to be looking to do anytime soon, unless there was some radical approach that could really draw an audience in. So we are looking at shows that are that are at least a decade since we've last produced them when it comes to like a major Shakespeare play on the main stage or in the Schubert. So that's one of the things that we consider. And of course, when we're thinking about a Shakespeare play, then we have to think about, okay, if we're going to do that on the main stage, what is it in repertory with?
Right.
Last year, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead was an obvious choice to do
fit.
along with Hamlet. It's a challenge, and I think that it's only certain theaters of a certain kind of scale and substance can do those 2 plays together.
Yeah.
Big cast, big budget costumes, et cetera, et cetera. But that's something that we have to think about as well. And then, how are we programming? How does the musical fit into that? And then what's happening in the Schubert Theater? Not only what's happening with the extreme Shakespeare, but what other shows can we offer in the Schubert? For a couple of years, actually 3 years in a row, we did a small musical in the Schubert. And that was an exciting thing for us. Is it something that was a precedent that we wanted to set that we're always doing? And we decided actually in this year that we didn't want to do one. What we have started to do is also look for opportunities to connect with other theater companies. whether it's a co-production or presenting. So that's another factor that we are considering. We don't have a co-production really in the works for next year, although we are looking at partnering with some folks in the Philly area in order to do our production of the piano lesson, because the piano lesson is actually going to be rehearsing for the first couple of weeks before our festival really kicks off.
Right.
So we are going to be partnering with some folks in Philly in order to make that happen. And one of the other things that we need to consider as we're looking at the season is what's going on more broadly in the community, what's going on culturally. Next summer happens to be a pretty major event historically for the U.S. It's going to be our 250th birthday. And celebrating America's 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence feels like that is an important thing for us to mark as we are looking at what plays and musicals that we could do. So that also is something that is a part of the consideration, is how are we speaking to our culture? Even though we're planning these seasons, we're planning them well over a year in advance. I've already got titles for 2027 and a few artists that are already ready to go for 2027. So this season planning is not something that, even though we might, like this last year, we announced it at the end of the summer, we had been planning it for even months before that. So for coming into 2026, we looked at all of these factors and we came up with a season that we framed around this theme of legends and legacy. And the reason that we wanted to do that, again, is about America's 250th and looking at the legends of American culture, the legends of our own literature and our own history as a Shakespeare Festival, as the official Shakespeare Festival of the Commonwealth, and this being our 30th anniversary of that recognition in 2026, as well as the 30th anniversary of our festival and the nation's 250th. So looking at legends and legacy, looking at what are some of the legends that we want to recognize, knowing that we can't recognize all of them, but we can recognize a few key legends, and also look at what is our legacy as we move forward. So we were looking at stories that could highlight that theme of legends and legacy. So we thought, let's look at what are some things culturally that we could speak to, and we could speak to as some legends of American culture, which is why we wanted to be doing and why we are going to be starting our season with the $1 Million Quartet, which is Elvis Presley and Johnny Cash and Carl Perkins and Jerry Lee Lewis, all at Sun Record Studios.
Couple of legends in there.
A few legends in there, all at Sun Record Studio in one night, and the kind of magic and chaos and conflict and drama that came up in this event that's a little historical and a little bit fictional, but it's all kind of mixed up in this moment in time that actually did exist when these four artists were all in Sun Record Studios in a single night. Now, right before that show opens on our main stage, we're starting our season, as I had mentioned, with the piano lesson. This is one of August Wilson's most well-known dramas. It's part of his Century Cycle, which is the 10 plays that he wrote about 10 different decades, centered around this community in Pittsburgh. So it's a very Pennsylvania-focused story and a very American story. And August Wilson has an amazing capacity for language and poetry and characters. And just like Shakespeare, he creates these amazing stories. He weaves these beautiful narratives. And he also embraces a world that is open to the supernatural. And there is, as we were just talking with our book club members about As You Like It, which has this deus ex machina of Hyman coming in to bless the wedding. And it feels a little bit out of left field, but it doesn't feel out of left field when you understand that Shakespeare had in his world the supernatural. We were talking about mackers and witches, right? This is not a world just for the mere mortals, but this is a world that embraces the unknown and the inexplicable. And August Wilson does that as well. There's this piano that the family has inherited over time that is carved with the story of their family, their ancestors from when they were enslaved, and that piano had been then taken by the white landowners and then stolen back by the family, and now this house in Pittsburgh is being haunted by the ghost of the descendant of the white family that had enslaved this family of this black family that we're meeting here. And so there's this ancestral and natural tension that's happening in this play. And a writer like August Wilson can really open up the American experience through this lens of this family and these two siblings who Boy Willie and Bernice, who were both kind of battling over what is going to be the future of this legacy of this piano that is their family heritage. So Legends and Legacy, just in the first two pieces of the season, we're really kind of unpacking that. Then we look at the legends of British literature in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and his Sherlock Holmes, as well as in the complete works of Jane Austen, abridged, and Jane Austen's entire canon kind of laid out with 3 actors in the Schubert Theater. We also have the legends that Shakespeare kind of gives us in the most legendary love story ever written about Romeo and Juliet. And so the Sherlock Holmes story, Moriarty, which is Ken Ludwig 5-actor comedy with 37 characters, 5 actors playing 37 characters. That's going to be in repertory with Romeo and Juliet. So the Legends and Legacy really playing out with that as well. So these are the kinds of stories that we wanted to tell and kind of put this whole theme together. It's not necessarily a chicken and egg. It's never really like the theme comes first or the plays come first. It's really like, how do these plays kind of start working together? And we look at that balance of great musicals, great comedies, great tragedies, making sure that we have a good enough selection of Shakespeare's. We are a Shakespeare Festival after all. Right. How all of that plays into putting a season together. And then the theme really kind of seems to, for me anyway, emerges out of how these plays are all talking to each other.
Well, how did you land on Coriolanus?
So the reason that I chose Coriolanus is in a season of Legends and Legacy, he is the original anti-hero. And he is this incredible soldier that loves to protect his country. However, he also really doesn't like when the people kind of get in his way and ask too many questions about the work that he does. So he doesn't necessarily trust everybody, but he cares deeply about his country. And ultimately, he's through the machinations of the Senate, he winds up getting banished. So there's all this stuff going on, and there's this kind of political story, but it's also at its core, it's this incredibly human story about one man kind of against a country that he believes so deeply in. And so it felt like in the whole kind of theme of Legends and Legacy, not only is Coriolanus a fantastic character, but Coriolanus is one of the few Shakespearean plays that PSF has never produced. And we are committed to, in the next few years, completing the Shakespearean canon and performing all of Shakespeare's plays here at Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival.
That's going to be a real big challenge for the Extreme Shakespeare cast. It's going to be amazing with all the fights and the warring, and it's going to be really, really fun.
Yeah, and for audiences
in a not fun kind of way.
No, I think for the actors who love to do the Extreme Shakespeare, who love to wrestle with the original practices and figure out how they can be the best Shakespeare storytellers and the best Shakespearean actors they can be. Coriolanus is going to be a fantastic ride for them. And for our audience who have a limited amount of time near the end of the festival's summer theater series to get to see that, they're going to love it.
It's going to be special.
Yeah.
Well, one of the actors that came in during the Equity Principal auditions had asked specifically, they say, I see that you're doing Coriolanus for the end of the season. And you're doing original practices for that? And I said, yes, we are. And they said, are you going to have a fight choreographer for that? Because I don't know how comfortable I would feel otherwise. I'm like, that's a great question.
Yes. And the answer is yes.
The answer is yes. Safety first.
Here's some swords. Go figure that out. Even in Shakespeare's time, in the original practices, and our understanding of the original practices is they had a very limited amount of rehearsal time. The things that they would focus on were the fights and the dances, right? The big group scenes. They would leave the speeches. They would leave the 2 or 3 person scenes kind of to the devices of the actors, who you could trust with their own instincts and their abilities to tell the story. So yes, for the safety of everybody, there will be a fight director for that. And that is a peek behind the curtain. And that wraps up our first episode of Season 2 of As You Mic It. A big thanks to David Andrew Laws, Darin Frankie Earl II, and Arrianna Daniels, and to Connie and Kim, and to all of you for joining us today. We have so many fun things planned for this year, so be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app. For all of us here at As You Mic It and Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival, thanks for listening, and we'll see you at Labuda.
Thank you for listening to As You Mic It, a Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival presentation recorded on the beautiful campus of DeSales University. Our music is by Cedric Lamar, with hosts Jason King-Jones, Kim Carson, and Connie Behringer. For more information on our summer theater series, giving opportunities, tickets, and more, visit pashakespeare.org. Be sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you at Labuda.
Behind every standing ovation is a network of patrons who know that theater changes lives. With tickets funding only half the cost, PSF counts on contributions to produce world-class theater, cultivate new audiences, and nurture future generations of artists. Give today at pashakespeare.org/support. Great theater is a collaboration both on stage and off.